Welcome to Easy English, your go-to channel for improving your English and life.
Okay, let's dive right into this. You shared this really fascinating piece titled, How to Be Charismatic.
Yeah, it's quite something.
And charisma, it's one of those things, isn't it? We all sort of know it when we see it, but actually pinning down what it is, that feels a bit tricky.
It really does. And this guidance, it starts right there. It talks about charisma like this almost invisible magic you feel when certain people walk into a room.
Yeah, that feeling.
It uses this great example right at the start about someone named Sarah. She walks in, the whole vibe shifts, people look up, they lean in, and she hasn't done anything big or loud.
That totally resonates. You feel that pull. But here's where this piece gets really interesting, like right away. It says it's not magic. Not really?
Exactly. It argues it's something built, something concrete.
So how does it break that down?
Well, according to this text, it boils down to three key things. First, there's presence, being totally there in the moment.
Okay, presence. Got it.
Second, warmth. That feeling you give off that makes people feel genuinely cared for, accepted.
Right, warmth. Makes sense.
And third is power. But it's very specific here. It's not about controlling people. It's more like confidence, a quiet kind of strength.
Okay. So presence, warmth, and power defined as confidence. Being grounded, kind, and sure of yourself.
Pretty much. And the really big message right from the start of this guidance is that charisma is absolutely not fixed. You're not just born with it or without it.
It says it's like a skill you develop, right? It uses that analogy.
Like building a muscle.
Yeah.
Explicitly, which is kind of empowering, isn't it?
Totally. It shifts the whole perspective. Yeah. So this exploration, it's not about being fake or putting on an act.
No, not according to this piece. It frames it more as learning to become more of who you really are, but with this added magnetism, this confidence and warmth that just naturally draws people in.
Okay, so if it's a muscle we can build, where's the gym? Where do we start? This guidance lays out habits, doesn't it?
It does, a whole series of them. The first one it introduces is all about presence. Own the room with presence.
And what's surprising there?
Well, one of the main points is that presence isn't just about how you talk. It really stresses how vital it is to master how you listen.
Oh, interesting. Not just waiting to talk.
Right. It uses this great visual. Imagine you're at some networking thing, talking to two different people.
Okay.
One person is kind of half listening, maybe glancing at their phone. You know the type. Their attention's split.
Yeah, definitely know that feeling.
And the other person, they're looking you right in the eye, maybe leaning in a bit, giving you their full, undivided attention.
The difference is huge.
Huge. And this piece points out that getting someone's full attention like that, it's pretty rare these days and really powerful.
It sends a signal, doesn't it?
A clear one. You're important. What you're saying matters right now. And that, this guidance argues, is magnetic. People are drawn to that.
It also gets into the physical side of presence too, right? Body language.
How you hold yourself signals if you're present. Things like not fidgeting, standing, or sitting tall, using open gestures. It's about seeming comfortable in your own skin.
And, like the piece says, owning your space. But in a calm way.
Exactly. It's this subtle thing, but it signals you're grounded, you're comfortable, and that makes other people feel more comfortable and safe around you too. The text suggests that when you really tune in, the room sort of tunes into you.
Not by being loud, but by being focused.
Precisely. You earn the attention through that presence.
And I like that it gives really practical, small steps, things you can actually do.
Yeah, very actionable. Like put your phone away. Seriously, just put it away when you're talking to someone.
Simple, but effective.
Try holding eye contact maybe just a second longer than usual. Take a deep breath before you walk into a room or start a conversation.
And really listen to understand, not just to figure out what you're going to say next.
Exactly. These little things, the text says, they're signals. They shout, I'm here with you. You matter. Powerful stuff.
Okay, so presence is the foundation. What comes next in these habits?
Well, building on that, the guidance moves into habits that deepen the connection. Habit 2 is interesting. Tell stories that spark emotion.
Storytelling, he calls them emotional bridges, right?
Yeah, I like that phrasing, connecting hearts, not just, exchanging facts. It uses that Sarah example again.
Right, at the company retreat, she shared something personal.
Yeah, about how she almost quit the year before, turned it into this really moving moment about finding purpose and sticking with it. It wasn't some polished corporate speech. It felt real, human.
And the text gives tips on how to do that effectively.
Keep stories pretty short. Focus on the emotion, share a lesson you learned, use vivid details so people can picture it, and have a clear takeaway at the end.
So the goal isn't just being memorable.
It's making people feel something. That creates a much stronger link, the text argues.
Which connects right back to listening, doesn't it? Habit 3 is listen, like you mean it.
It revisits that theme, yeah. Stressing again that you don't need to talk more to be charismatic. Sometimes you just need to listen better.
It mentions that Bill Clinton anecdote here, I think.
It does. That famous ability he had to make whoever he was talking to feel like they were the only person in the world at that moment. That intense focus.
That's definitely magnetic. So what are the practical tips here for listening?
Okay, so the piece suggests things like really resist planning your reply while they're still talking. Pay attention not just to their words, but their emotions, their tone.
Tuning into the feelings behind the words.
Exactly. Using open phrases like, tell me more about that, or how did that feel? And maybe pausing for just a beat before you respond, showing you've actually absorbed what they said.
In a world that's so noisy and everyone's rushing, just being that focused listener feels rare.
Incredibly rare.
Yeah.
And the guidance argues it builds massive trust, makes you really stand out.
Okay, so presence, storytelling, listening. What's habit 4?
Habit 4 is smile with intention. The text calls this one of the easiest, but maybe most underrated charisma tools.
But not just any smile, right?
Yeah.
It makes a distinction.
Right. It contrasts that polite, sort of tight-lipped smile, the one that doesn't really reach your eyes, with a genuine one, the kind that seems to light up your whole face.
The Duchenne smile, I think they call it sometimes.
Could be. The piece just emphasizes that kind of genuine smile makes people feel truly seen, welcomed. It even uses the word loved, like a moment of pure positive connection.
And the practice tips are simple.
Very. Think about starting the smile in your eyes first. Make a point of smiling warmly when you greet someone and again when you say goodbye. And letting that warmth carry into your voice.
Such a basic human signal.
Exactly. Warmth, safety, friendliness, all core parts of the charisma described here.
Okay, moving on. The next set of habits. Habit 5 is master the art of body language.
Yeah, this builds in presence. The core idea is your body is shouting messages long before your mouth opens.
It uses that contrast again, right?
Yeah.
Someone rushing in versus someone composed.
Compares someone sort of hunched over, maybe staring at their phone as they enter, versus someone walking in upright, making brief eye contact, just looking comfortable and open.
So what does charismatic body language look like, according to this piece?
It talks about open posture, no crossed arms, facing people, a grounded stance, feet firmly planted, using gestures that are intentional and relaxed, not fidgety, and making sure your facial expression actually matches what you're saying.
That makes sense. Congruence.
Right. It also mentions mirroring, subtly matching the other person's posture or energy level. It says that can build rapport.
So the main takeaway is confident, open body language signals safety.
Yeah, it makes people feel more at ease around you, less threatened, more open.
Okay. Then habit 6 gets into the voice. Speak with confidence and warmth.
And the argument here is that how you say things often matters more than the exact words, your delivery.
It contrasts different speaking styles.
Yeah, think of someone rushing their words, maybe their voice is high-pitched, sounds tense, compared to someone who speaks calmly, uses pauses well, maybe has a slightly lower, richer tone, and varies their pitch to keep it engaging.
So what are the tips for developing that?
Things like consciously slowing down your pace, taking breaths, trying to speak from your diaphragm a bit more, which can lower the tone naturally, and actually smiling slightly as you speak, it warms up the voice.
That's interesting, the smiling part affecting the sound.
Yeah. And it also touches on word choice. Using phrases like, I believe, or my perspective is, sounds more confident than wishy-washy language like, well, I could be wrong, but maybe.
And it mentions pauses again.
Right. That a well-placed moment of silence can actually be really powerful, draws people in.
Okay, now habit 7. This one sounds important. The piece calls it potentially the most important habit of all.
It does. Make people feel important.
Okay. This feels central.
Totally. It's that classic idea, people forget what you said, but not how you made them feel. And according to this text, making others feel valued, interesting, like the star of the moment, that's the secret sauce.
It brings Sarah back again here.
Mentions her praising a colleague, Emily, publicly in a meeting for her great work. Not just a quick, good job, but specific praise.
And the idea is that lifting others up makes you seem more charismatic.
Exactly. It's not a zero-sum game. When you make others shine, people associate you with that positive feeling. They feel good around you.
So how do you practice making people feel important, according to the text?
Use their name warmly. Recognize their efforts, even small things. Ask about their life, their interests, not just work stuff. Make real eye contact when you give a compliment. And crucially, be sincere. People can spot fake praise a mile off.
When someone feels genuinely seen and valued by you.
They link you with all those positive qualities. Warmth, confidence, positivity. That's charisma in action, according to this guidance.
Okay, this is really practical stuff. Let's get into the next batch. Habit 8 is be authentically yourself. This feels maybe a little surprising after talking about skills.
Yeah, it might seem counterintuitive, but the piece argues strongly that true charisma comes from integrity, from being real, not from trying to be some perfect, flawless persona.
So it's not about putting on a mask.
Not at all. People are drawn to authenticity, it says. Trying to maintain a perfect image is just exhausting, and it doesn't actually build deep trust. Being real does.
How does it suggest practicing authenticity?
Things like being willing to admit when you've made a mistake, sharing struggles or vulnerabilities sometimes when it's appropriate, gently speaking your truth even if it differs from the group, and avoiding that temptation to just agree with everyone to be liked.
So standing in your own truth, but kindly.
Exactly, that combination of confidence in who you are plus openness to others. That's what makes people feel safe and connected. That's where the text says genuine charisma comes from.
Okay. Habit 9 is use names and touch respectfully.
Yeah.
You touched on names already.
Yeah, it revisits it, calling a person's name the sweetest sound to them.
Using it warmly signals recognition. I see you.
Precisely. The guidance suggests just weaving names naturally into conversation, greetings, goodbyes, when giving that praise we talked about.
And the touch aspect, it handles that carefully here.
Very carefully. It talks about a light, appropriate touch, like a handshake, maybe a high five, or a brief touch on the arm if it's culturally okay, consensual, and feels right for the situation and relationship.
So not a power move, but connection.
Exactly. The text frames it as saying, I'm here, I'm human, we're connected. It acknowledges charisma has this physical, embodied dimension, and respectful touch used appropriately can deepen that feeling.
Makes sense. Habit 10, bring positive energy.
Yeah, this one asks you to think about that feeling. Have you ever felt a room literally seem to lighten up when one specific person walks in?
Definitely. Some people just have that vibe.
Well, this piece says charismatic people often radiate that. It's not about being fake happy or bubbly all the time. It's more like an underlying optimism, resilience, looking for solutions, radiating a kind of hope, genuinely enjoying engagement.
How do you cultivate that energy according to the text?
Focus on possibilities, not just problems. Use language that's uplifting or inspiring. Smile genuinely, often, and approach interactions with curiosity rather than judgment.
The piece calls positive people magnets, doesn't it?
Yep. Because, simply put, we feel good around them. We're drawn to that energy.
Okay. And habit 11 uses humor. Make people laugh.
Oh, but again, with a specific angle. It's not about being a stand-up comedian or delivering punchlines. It's using lightheartedness as a connector.
Softening tension, making things relatable.
Exactly. Humor opens people up, makes you seem more human. The text says charismatic people often laugh at themselves, share funny little stories or observations, and use gentle humor to ease awkward moments.
What are the tips for using humor charismatically?
Share amusing things you notice. Be willing to laugh at your own minor mistakes. Smile when you tell a funny anecdote. And a big one. Avoid sarcasm or any humor that targets or belittles someone else. That kills connection.
So the goal is just to invite a bit of joy.
Yeah. Invite joy into the space. And joy, the text argues, is really charismatic.
All right, almost there. The final two habits. Habit 12 is learn the language of empathy.
This feels like a really deep one. The core idea is that making people feel genuinely, deeply understood, that makes you unforgettable.
It connects empathy to emotional intelligence.
Directly. Being able to tune into others' emotions, noticing subtle shifts in energy during a conversation, knowing when to just listen instead of jumping in.
And it clarifies empathy isn't about fixing things for people.
Right. That's a key distinction. It's not about solving their problems necessarily. It's about being present with whatever they're feeling, acknowledging it.
How does the guidance suggest growing this empathetic charisma?
Pay attention to tone of voice, body language, the nonverbal cues. Ask, how are you really feeling about that? And then actually listen. Validate their feelings with phrases like, wow, that sounds really tough, or I can totally see why you'd feel that way. And resist that urge to immediately offer solutions unless they ask.
Just holding space for their feelings.
Exactly. When you make people feel safe enough to be vulnerable, truly seen without judgment, The text concludes that creates this incredibly strong magnetic bond, unforgettable charisma.
And the very last one, habit 13, leave a trail of curiosity. Sounds intriguing.
It is. It's the idea that charismatic people often don't lay everything out on the table at once. They say just enough to pique your interest, to make you lean in and want to discover more.
So it's not about being mysterious or aloof.
No, definitely not distant. It's about creating engagement, making the interaction feel like there's more to explore. They might hint at interesting experiences, ask more questions about you than they answer about themselves initially, and just have a way of making you feel like you're fascinating.
Which makes you want to keep talking to them.
Exactly. How do you practice it? The guidance suggests maybe telling a story but leaving a little suspense, asking lots of open-ended questions, casually mentioning a unique hobby or interest, using little hooks like, oh, that reminds me of something wild that happened last year, or remind me to tell you about that project sometime.
So it's not manipulation.
No, the text is clear on that. It's about creating an inviting space where people genuinely want to continue the conversation. That desire to connect further is magnetism.
Wow, okay. That's a lot of habits. The guidance also tackles some common questions, right, in an FAQ section.
Yeah, which is super helpful, like the big one. Are you just born charismatic or not?
And the answer from this piece.
A clear no. It argues strongly that while some might have a natural inclination, charisma, as defined by these habits, is definitely a learned skill. Anyone can develop it.
What about introverts? Can they be charismatic?
Absolutely, yes. The text emphasizes charisma isn't about volume, it's about connection. And introverts often excel at the deep listening and empathy parts, which are key charismatic traits according to this guidance.
Is there a quick fix? Like the fastest way to seem more charismatic?
The quickest impact comes from presence, it says. Phone down, real eye contact, a warm, genuine smile, and just truly listening to the person in front of you. That makes an immediate difference.
And how does developing charisma affect your relationships, according to this piece?
It suggests it builds stronger bonds, more trust, better understanding. People feel safer opening up to you when you practice these habits.
Can you learn this at any age? Is it too late if you're older?
Never too late, the text says. Absolutely not. In fact, age often brings more stories, more insights, more depth, which can actually enhance your charisma.
And that worry about being fake. Does this mean pretending to be someone you're not?
No, the guidance circles back to authenticity here. It insists that true, sustainable charisma starts with being genuine. Faking it doesn't last. The real power comes from developing genuine care, presence, and emotional awareness. It's about being more fully you, just with more connection skills.
Okay, so if we boil down everything in this piece, the main takeaway is really empowering, isn't it? Charisma isn't some magic gift.
Not at all. It's a skill set, accessible to anyone willing to practice these habits.
And the advice is to start small, right? Don't get overwhelmed.
Exactly. Pick one habit. Maybe just focus on making better eye contact this week. Or practice that genuine smile more consciously. Or try really listening without interrupting in your next few conversations.
And the idea is, as you practice, you'll start to notice a difference.
Yeah, the piece suggests you'll see people respond differently. Maybe they lean in more, hold your gaze longer, smile back more readily. You'll feel that connection strengthening.
So this text definition of charisma, when you strip away the mystery, is really about making people feel good when they're with you.
Pretty much. Consistently making people feel positive, seen, understood, maybe even a little uplifted when they interact with you, lifting the energy.
And the powerful thing is, you don't need a spotlight or a stage to do that.
Not according to this guidance. You just need to genuinely care about connecting, be willing to be present, and put these habits into practice, little by little.
So thinking about everything we've unpacked from this text,
Yeah.
it leaves you wondering, doesn't it? What's one small thing you could maybe try, even today, to start building that charisma muscle?
That's the real question it leaves you with.
Well, this has been a fascinating exploration. Thanks for digging into this with me.
My pleasure. Lots to think about.